Ohio Minasan, welcome back to the final DLC part of Step 3. We're here. The DLC, Step 3 is the final one. We're going to do it, and then obviously the next recording will be Step 4. And I'm super excited to show you guys Step 4. So anyway, let's go into happiness. The day and the week were nearing their end, and you were welcoming it in your own way by lying sprawled out on your bed. It was quiet in your house, getting to that time of night where you really should be sleeping, but you didn't feel tired at all. You rolled onto your side, outside. The last lit-up window across the street blinked out, leaving the buildings on the block faceless silhouettes against the blue-black sky dotted by stars. Your phone came to life on the nightstand, a pale light cast on the ceiling of your room. Without looking, you threw your arms out behind yourself, groping around on the tabletop until your phone was underneath your palm. At that point, you lifted it up to your face, snorting once you saw the familiar name attached to the short message just reading, "Hey." Cove wasn't much for sleeping now either. As you made to reply, though, more and more texts came through in quick succession. Hey, you like doing things. You like doing things with me. I mean, what I'm saying is that there are things you and I do and we like together at the same time. Now that was eyebrow raising. You propped yourself up on one elbow, sitting upright against the headboard so you could text more comfortably. Wow, you got that all figured out. The typing indicator dropped off and a notable pause followed. You snickered into the palm of your hand. It wasn't hard to imagine Cove red-faced and hunched over his phone in the dark, eyebrows furrowed as he tried to think of how to respond to your teasing. But ultimately, he didn't even attempt to address it. For what I was saying, you're free for a while, right? Oh shit, Sherlock! I've got nothing big planned for the next few days, but that can change. Would you like to change it? Cool, I thought so. I was just making sure. Alright. You could almost hear Cove's intake of breath as he prepared for the next part, despite the conversation being text alone. The window of your messaging app might as well have been a screenshot. You were left to keep track of the passing seconds with the rising and falling cries of crickets outside. When your screen darkened from inactivity, you wondered if you should do something yourself. We're gonna give you a nudge. Struggling with what to write, huh? Mindful of everyone else asleep in the house, you did all you could to stifle your laughter. Keep going. I'm trying. The next message came almost instantaneously. What if we did something new, sort of unexpected? Be okay with that? Something we haven't ever done together? Cool. It's fine. You lowered your phone, leaning back against the headboard as you thought it over. The streets outside your window looked different at night, but you knew that if you were to wander out, there would be no chance of you losing your way. There wasn't a single inch of your neighborhood that you didn't know by heart. And everywhere you looked, from the grassy hill behind your house to the shops by the beach, you could recall a time when you'd been there with Cove, mostly just chatting as you walked together. You didn't mind everyday things like that, but as for something new or unexpected, what's gotten into Cove Holden to want to do something brand new? Hey, I'm not predictable. Am I? You are. Oh. Well, not right now. One by one, Cove began presenting his ideas, starting off with attempting to play. Oh, well, not right now. We watch TV together in movies, but real people performing in front of us. We've never done that. I'm not sure what plays exactly are on right now, but that adds to the unexpected. someone wanted to surprise you with an unexpected outing, would that be okay? You couldn't help but smile fondly at that, wondering to yourself who that someone could be. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, hunch, hunch. If only a hypothetical someone existed. Great. Not that it means anything, but which one would be your favorite? It'd be... let's see, the aquarium. Because we know Cove will like the aquarium. It's a good thing. You've heard that in recent years, the aquarium have been making efforts towards conservation programs. It seemed like the perfect, obvious fit for Cove. Alright, cool. Don't think too hard about this talk. It doesn't mean anything. Go back to imagining that this never happened. I promise not to try figuring it out. You're freaking adorable. Don't say that. Good night, Blue. It's really late now. Yeah, it is. Nighty night. With that final send-off, you put your phone to sleep and lowered it with a sigh. You had no idea what Cove was going to invite you to the aquarium, but your mind was buzzing with all the possibilities of the coming days the coming days might bring. The phone went back to its place on the nightstand and you resumed snuggling into the mattress, one hand thrown over the side and the other shoved under the pillow. Somewhere between this day and the next, you finally found yourself asleep. The next morning, after washing up from breakfast, you had just climbed up the stairs to your room, ready to tackle the day, when you heard the ringing of the doorbell. You turned towards the sound, angling your head in confusion. Was someone expecting a visitor today? Apparently. We get no. I'm getting surprised, aren't I? Then again, you weren't even sure if anyone else was around, judging by the lack of footsteps you were hearing. You raced downstairs to answer the door, and as you pulled it open and saw who it was, you were only further confused. Are you not remembering the conversation from last night, me? Cove? He was standing there with an unsure look on his face at first, like he didn't know who would answer the door. But the moment he saw you, a shy grin spread across his face. He raised one hand to you and gave you a little wave. Surprise? Don't you normally use the window? We found it funny how you had grown up used to hearing him tap on that glass pane, then showing up at the front door was quite a totally reaction. Cove turned his head to the side with a considering lift of his eyebrows. I guess I do, but not today. I got you something. He slid a hand out from behind his back, holding it up in front of your face as he offered the present to you. Your eyes widened when you saw what it was. A rose. He keeps remembering the pretty precious boy. Oh. You hadn't expected a gift at all, let alone something as thoughtful as this. He took a step towards you, so close you could see the sunlight shining through some of the flyaway strands of his hair on top of his head. There was a quiet little tremor in his voice when he spoke again. Surprise again? You like it? Yes, it's my favorite. You remember? He nodded in reply, smiling at you affectionately. Of course I do. Then, growing flustered by his own words, Cove averted his eyes with a nervous glance downwards. His gaze landing on the flower, Cove laughed to himself, a thought suddenly coming to him. A thought suddenly coming to you, my dear boy? My dad would be proud of me for doing this all on my own, huh? You chuckled, imagining the stumbling display of fatherly pride Mr. Holden would subject his son to. Suddenly, Cove raised his head, his eyes finding yours and startling you in the stillness. Cove's question came softly, his voice lingering on some words as his shyness got the better of him. Blue. Would you go on a date with me today? I was thinking maybe we could go to the aquarium. Sure, my precious, precious boy. We can totally do that, my precious boy. He inclined his head at you with a crooked smile. I had a feeling that might be a nice place to invite you to. Oh, you had a feeling! You had a feeling. Oh, my precious, precious boy. Don't lie to my face. Cove huffed a sigh of relief, his lips spreading in a wide, cheery smile. All right, we're gonna do it. With his big question asked and accepted, Cove raised the gift towards you again, gesturing with his other hand for you to receive it officially. You carefully took it from him. I'll put this bad boy somewhere safe, then we can get going. Cove had no problem with that. Still grinning, he stepped back, his body angling away as he waved a hand in the air. I'll get my car ready then. Meet me there? Okay. As soon as the door clicked shut, you dashed upstairs to your room, prepping a spot first for Cove's gift. Then, satisfied with your efforts, you grabbed your bag, tossing in whatever else you thought you'd need for the outing before heading back outside. Cove's old car was parked right in front of the house. You went straight towards it, hopping into the shotgun seat. As you buckled yourself in, Cove leaned forward to watch you with an eager expression, his fingers tapping on the dashboard with a lively sort of rhythm. He was ready to start, but trying to tone it down so you wouldn't feel rushed. I'm glad we're doing this together. Me too. Once your seatbelt was secured, Cove checked the mirrors to make sure the street was clear before pulling away from the curb. And like that, the two of you began your trip. You settled in fully for the trip out to the aquarium in the city. It would be a bit of a drive, but you didn't mind. You made an attempt to start a conversation. It's kind of funny we've never done this before. Why haven't we? Why haven't the water-obsessed boy? Why haven't you taken the water-obsessed boy to the aquarium? Probably because I never thought about going to the aquarium with anyone before. What? Our local ocean enthusiast has never gone to the aquarium? Yep, that's right, never. And not just this specific one either. I haven't been to an aquarium, period. What is wrong with you, Mr. Cove Holden? Wow. I'd been to an aquarium before. We're not making this a weird experience where neither of us have done this by the time we were 18. You had more experience with aquariums than Cove Holden. That simply sounded wrong. Okay, what is the story for this? Cove tapped the tip of his fingers against the steering wheel, his face scrunching in contemplation. When I was growing up, my dad did try to take me. I'd never been before because I was so little, I said no. Whenever he tried to talk about it, I'd tell my dad I'd rather go to the actual beach on my own. Or he could at least take me to the fish part of the pet store, but not the aquarium. Eventually, he didn't ask about it anymore. Must have figured I had something against it. When he stopped mentioning the aquarium, I stopped thinking about it. It just never came back to my mind. Oh, Cove Holden. That's just sad, my dear boy. His expression shifted into one of bemused confusion. The thing is, I don't know what I had against it. If I did have a problem. Maybe I didn't like the idea of seeing water I wasn't allowed to go in, or meet fish I could never bring home. That sounds like the kind of thing little me might have gotten upset over. Or maybe I just wasn't okay with doing a new kind of trip. It'd be someplace new and with only my dad, Mom wouldn't be there anymore.
I guess
that might have made it seem not worth doing right off the bat. That's 8-year-old me for ya. Dang, Cove, dang. Cove shook his head with a pained smile. Then his tone dropped to a distant whisper. It was only when thinking about stuff I could do with you that I finally remembered I could go to an aquarium. Oh. He pulled his mouth into a bent smile and straightened his shoulders. He didn't want to bring the mood down. It all worked out in the end, because I got to really surprise you with the news, huh? I'm flattered you're letting me be there for your first time at the aquarium. You're welcome. The conversation continued on with idle chatter about what you do when you get there. Then the large angular building decorated with ocean-themed cutouts came into view. You arrived at your destination. You hopped out of the car and headed over to the impossibly large guest entranceway. Cove's head swiveled around to let his curious eyes take in the every view, and you weren't even inside yet. You could see the realization of what he had been missing out on dawn on him in real time. Cove bounced on the balls of his feet as the two of you stood in line to get tickets. His excitement continued to build. When you finally were face to face with the tanks, you could hear Cove quietly gasp from your side. He briskly took some large strides to get further into the room and to get closer to the glass barrier. There he stood still. After taking a moment for himself, he looked around and looked at you. Cove was outright vibrating with excitement. His mouth opened with a large smile, but all that came out was a tiny squeaking giggles. It bubbled over love it here. Of course you do. There's no way someone like you would hate a place like this. He cheered back without hesitation. Yeah, the aquarium is great. You're literally underwater, Cove. The two of you wasted no time before rushing around the place. You went every which way across the aquarium. Cove was enthralled by each new sight, his eyes alight like a kid in a candy store, and the perpetual smile made its home on his face. No metaphorical stone was left unturned. He viewed all the tanks from his tallest of heights, on tippy toes as well as crouching as low to the floor as he could manage. Your exuberance was just as bright as his, buoyed further by how happy you were that he had found such happiness, you being. After making an entire trip through the whole building, you and Cove finally slowed the pace down. You had arrived back to the original viewing room. It was a good spot for a break. Cove stood quietly near the tank in almost the same spot he had been when you had first took in the view. Somehow, that moment already felt like a long time ago. You weren't sure if he was feeling the same way. Cove simply watched the watery world inside with open fondness. He wouldn't get tired of that view ever. You were certain of that. You walked up to stand by him, taking in the same otherworldly experience of having a sea right in front of you. Suddenly, Cove swallowed hard, your head tilted. He wasn't even looking at you, his eyes glued on the vast ocean view in front of him. But his bright red face reflected clearly on the floor-to-ceiling glass pane separating aquarium goers from the water. You couldn't understand. Nothing had happened. Then realization came. This was Cove. He was flustered because he was thinking about doing something. Cove always got that way when he was mentally building himself up. You leaned against the handrailing with a smirk. You weren't going to take your gaze off him for even a second. It was imperative that you didn't miss any of this, whatever it was. So there's a lot of fish here, huh? That's right. Good job. Where's this going, Cove? His mouth clamped shut after those vague, stuttered words. You could feel the tension growing. After a breathless pause, he spoke again. You know, if you were a fish, you'd be a paradise fish, because being with you is like being in paradise. Cove pressed his forehead against the glass with his eyes wide, gazed down as he feverishly refused to even peek at what reaction you might have been giving. He was blushing wildly and feeling unparalleled embarrassment over the line he had just dropped. I'm covering my face! You thought it might be good that it was something of a rare occasion for Cove to be that direct. It was a lot for you. Oh, I got some fish name knowledge. We got some fish name knowledge. Let's go for it. Well, if you were a fish, you'd be... Sunrise Guppy, because you're my adorable ray of sunshine. Oh, that's adorable. That's the one. Oh. He continued to speak after his initial explanation, but it was so mumbled you weren't sure what it was. Cove had completely lost control of the conversation that he had started, and he did not know what to do about that. Ultimately, he settled for turning his burning face away from you even more, as well as covering a cheek with a hand for good measure. Leaving him speechless had you feeling rather pleased. After that, Cove wanted to go around the aquarium again. He hoped to let it all sink in at a more leisurely pace while you were here. Blech. Plus, he desperately wanted more time to settle down after his latest big attempt at flirting. The two of you began your second loop down the paths. It took no time at all to become absorbed in the incredible sea life once more. As you walked, Cove stole a quick look at you after only having eyes for the fish for some time. Hey, would it be alright if I asked why you chose this place? What made it the favorite out of everything? Because it was something I thought you would like, Cove. It doesn't matter why, I'm just curious. I knew you'd love it. That was why. I knew you'd love it, my boy. His brows dipped at the words, and you noticed his lips wobble. He spoke up meekly. Thank you. I do really love it. I know, and I'm glad. You rested your hand delicately on his chest. Cove's eyes crinkled from the smile he made. Even if he was intending to do all this for you, you had to do something for him too, and it couldn't be helped. There wasn't nearly enough time in a single day to satisfy Cove's desire to exist inside the aquarium, but the day did have to end eventually. Despite obviously wanting to linger longer, Cove left the building with a skip in his step. It had been a good trip. The two of you shut the door of Cove's car behind you as you took your usual seats. The clicking of seatbelts punctuated the end of the adventure. I would absolutely do that again. No kidding? Cove chuckled as he pulled the car out of the parking spot, spirits still high as ever. Dot dot dot, dot dot dot, the empty silence goes with the dot dot dots. A ways into the drive, Cove glanced towards your direction. You stretched your arms as you shifted in the seat, waiting patiently for him to say what was on his mind.
So,
I know this was unexpected, but thanks for coming along. Any date with you is a good one. Really? Any at all? Yeah, of course. There was a quiet pause where you contently watched Cove. It wasn't hard to imagine the blush that was likely trailing over his cheeks. I'm glad. The drive continued in a comfortable silence. Cove wore a content expression on his face that warmed your heart. Doing things like this with Cove, he made you happy. Your heart skipped a beat thinking about how mutual the feeling seemed to be. Watching the passing scenery out the window, you relaxed into the seat. The time sped by. It wasn't too long before Cove pulled into his driveway. Sighing happily, you got out of the car while Cove came around to where you were standing. He stood there for a moment, rolling a pebble under his shoe. I'll see you tomorrow? I'm counting on it.
thanks.
No problem, Cove. After that, you and Cove parted ways for the rest of the day. Even when you fell back into your normal routine, your mind refused to stop buzzing with the memory of your little adventure. As you crawled into bed and closed your eyes, you were back in the best part of the day. You hoped Cove's surprise would continue just a bit longer and continue into your dreams. After breakfast the next morning, you were sitting with your moms and Liz. While you were mildly listening to the conversation, the side of your face squished into the palm of your hand, the doorbell rang.
Oh?
I'll get it. Mom passed by you to the front door. Your eyes lazily followed her, then you turned your attention to Mom and Liz. They were still lightheartedly chatting. You weren't sure about what. Your focus snapped back when your name was called from across the room. Hey, Blue, you have a guest? Be right there. On your way to the front door, Mom gave your shoulder a pat as she returned to the living room. When she moved by, you saw who it was at the door. It was Cove again. A smile stretched out across his face the moment your eyes met.
Hi.
Hi, Cove, sweetie. Instantly, you looked over your shoulder to see Ma several feet away, but within eyeshot of the door, she waved. When you faced Cove again, he was looking at the ground shyly. It reminded you of the last time you'd seen him the night before. That was all the push you needed to step outside, closing the door behind you for some privacy. You coming to the door all the time is starting to get weird. You realize how ridiculous that sounds, right? You know how ridiculous it sounds that you spent years coming to my bedroom window, Cove? Like, my dear boy. Yeah, I know, that doesn't stop it from being true, and you're the one who made reasonable actions unheard of. Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile and he shrugged. Then Cove chuckled awkwardly. He didn't quite meet your eye as he pulled out another gift from behind his back. Surprise, wanna go ice skating with me? What? You blinked You blinked and then switched to staring at him in bewilderment. Cove's eyes narrowed conspiratorially. It's a real surprise. I was gonna invite you to all three places. You never had to choose only one. I just need to make sure that they didn't sound completely terrible. The longer Cove spoke, the quieter his voice became. He shyly scratched the side of his cheek. And to check if you'd be free, so surprise again? Aw, you're so sweet. Thanks. His face grew red with a blush. Shyly, Cove looked away from you. Do you like what I got you? Cove nudged the present in his hand towards you, hoping you'd take it. Until now, you hadn't completely registered it. It was a carefully chosen ukulele case. Oh, Cove! You adorable boy! Oh, you're so thoughtful! Cove's mouth pulled into a beaming smile that reached his eyes. Chuckling, you took the gift. I'm really glad How'd you like it? Are you gonna accept the other part too? I'm already excited about the ice ring. Let's get going. Cove bounced a bit on the toes of his feet as he leaned over to kiss you. It was light, but you could feel his smile pressing into you and every bit of happiness radiating off of him. Thanks for coming. I'll be in the car. You can get ready. All right. You sped back inside and spotted your family still sitting around the table. They all turned to smile at you. Shut up! So what's the plan for today? Cove invited me to go ice skating with him. Ma clapped her hands together happily. Her smile beamed.
Have fun.
That sounds like fun. I hope you'll have a great time with Cove. I will. You grinned and looked over at Liz. She nodded, looking happy for you. It didn't take you too long to get ready and dash out the front door. Cove was waiting for you as promised, and you both set out for the day 2 of his surprise outing. And this time, it actually was a surprise. Now that you were sitting down for the drive, it felt like a good moment to regain your bearings. You shrugged your pack onto your lap and began thumbing through your things to make sure that in your hurry to leave, you hadn't forgotten anything important. I'm dressed more warmly, but in the meantime, you were left to sweat under the sweltering heat of the sun. You zipped it closed again, and Cove began to speak, raising his voice to be heard over the ambient noise of the car ride.
So,
Ice skating! This is gonna be crazy! Having fun with water that's frozen, unheard of. He chuckled at his own joke, and you shook your head at him, though you couldn't help grinning at his silly comment. Who knows? Maybe in colder places, it's the opposite that's weird. As you looked at him, you caught a glimpse of the back seat. It was empty, which wouldn't be strange any other day. You didn't bring a jacket? You didn't bring a jacket, Mr. Holden? Nope. You know I hate extra layers, and there aren't any parents around to force me to do it now. You're gonna regret that once we get there. Cove's eyebrow knit together as he began to pout. I'll be fine. You're not gonna be fine. He stayed firmly in his seat, showing no sign that he was going to change his mind. Skeptical as you were, you said nothing more on it. You laid your arms against the window, scenery outside passing in a blur until finally you arrived at the ice skating rink. The two of you grabbed your things and got out of the car. A wave of heat so thick it felt like you were swimming in it hit you as soon as you set foot into the sun-hot asphalt of the parking lot. Cove fell into step next to you, dragging the back of his arms across his face. You and Cove exchanged looks. Well, here we are. His tilted smile seemed to say. The skating rink was a large building of glass and concrete, with its name plastered in simple white letters above its entrance. The nondescript flat rooftop style of the architecture reminded you a bit of the local mall. You went inside. As the door slid shut behind you, you heard Cove's sharp intake of breath. Glanced over at him, seeing the stunned look on his face, his lips drawn into a tight frown. Oh, Cove. It's really cold in here. We talked about this exact thing a minute ago. I'm just not used to it is all. Who do you think I am? I've lived beachside in California my entire life. I'm not the Ice Master. Ice Master, as if his way of approaching this outing hadn't been so absurd already. That would have sounded ridiculous. Cove had his bottom lip stuck out and his arms wrapped around himself in childish definement. How about you? How are you feeling? I'm feeling just fine. There was no denying that the building was chilly, but it was a refreshing change compared to the sweltering heat of the parking lot. He laughed breathlessly. That's good. Your neighbor shrugged dramatically, almost retracting his head into his shirt in his renewed effort to keep warm. We're gonna hold you. We're gonna warm you up with us. You took a step towards him and wrapped him up in what you hoped eventually became a warm embrace. For a second, his body went even more rigid, but he quickly relaxed and gave you a self-conscious smile.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blue. See if you feel like thanking me after I force you to rent skates like this. His quiet laugh shook through his abdomen. You felt it on the side of your body right before he put his arms around your waist and pressed you closer, an unspoken sign that he had no problem with it. Like this, the two of you ambled over to the rental counter together. A slightly awkward process that had you unsure if you were going forward or sideways. Oh, we're going to have a fun time, aren't we? The clerk ended up with giving you two funny looks over the top of her glasses as you went through the process of paying for admission and finding skates in your shoe size. But throughout it all, Cove didn't shiver once. Eventually, you had your skates. It was a particularly well-worn set. Still sturdy, but where it had once been blue, it was now fading, and where it had once been white, it was now closer to tan. With some time in a low bench, you both were set up with rented shoes and now stood by the opening to the ring. It was an oblong shape surrounded by paneled walls with rails. You were a little amused to see that there were others dressed in t-shirts and shorts, and you turned to Cove to point it out. The answering laugh that came sounded a little distracted.
Well,
Here we go. Yep, here we go, Cove. Tentatively, you took one step out onto the ice. A series of movements that followed were reminiscent of a jack-in-the-box swinging back and forth on its swing. You thought you might laugh, but it died in your throat when, for one heart-lurching second, Cove's upper body tilted forward at a 90-degree angle. His hand shot out, slapping against the ledge, running along the plexiglass panels at the side of the ring. A relieved sigh left both him and you. He was mumbling to himself as he craned his head back. He must have caught the alarm on your face, because he gave you a smile as shaky as his footing. I'll make it work. You came forward to join him and... We're going easily. Expertly, you built up a little bit of momentum you needed and slid smoothly to a stop at his side. Eyebrows raised into appraisal, Cove looked down at your feet as though he couldn't understand how they moved like that. It's kind of amazing that we're seriously ice skating now. But this is what we decided to do. I should stop being surprised over everything. This is what you decided to do, my dear boy. Let's skate. Let's skate. The two of you developed a cautious rhythm, drawing long, slow circles around the edge of the ring side by side. You made sure to the pace never exceeded what Cove was capable of. He was happy to let you guide him. You gave him pointers while making small strides. Sometimes he'd take breaks to settle down and give you the chance to flex more of your skills of your own. He seemed to enjoy that just as much as attempting to skate himself. White puffs of air released from you and Cove as you laughed and cheered each other on for any achievement. There were also plenty of movements spent clinging to each other for added warmth against the unrelenting chill of the space. The hours slid right past you, and just like that, it was suddenly time to call it a day. After returning the borrowed skates, Cove and you ventured back out into the California air. Even though the sun was almost behind the horizon, it was still palpably warmer than inside the ring. Cove reached over to his car, his shivering hand clenched in yours. You let him pull you forward in his mad dash to the vehicle. Doors were opened and closed, seats were taken, and engines switched on, the heat turned on to max. At that, Cove finally relaxed. Your foray into the freezing cold had ended, and nicely at that. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da means that the sunset's getting filled with nothingness. Da-da-da-da-da. Sorry. The car ride home went by far too fast. You and Cove were in good spirits and spent the ride chatting and laughing, bouncing around various topics. But you didn't ask the question that sat all day in the back of your mind. Why was Cove doing all this in the first place? Again, you both parted ways for the night in the neighborhood street. You watched Cove head inside with a quick wave. You were halfway to your own house when a familiar voice called out to you. Turning on your heels, you spotted Mr. Holden. He lightly jogged over to talk.
Hey!
Hey, how are you? I'm good. Great. I was just getting home from work. What are you up to? Or rather, what were you up to today? Me and Cove went ice skating. You did, huh? Sounds fun. It was fun. It was also a surprise, which is weird, since usually me and Cove not hanging out would be what sounds surprising. Crossing your arms, you gave a quick laugh. Mr. Holden frowned, rubbed the back of his neck, and studied you for several silent moments. Right, so, Blue, what's going on out there? Something is going on, isn't it? Huh? Wait, what makes you ask? There's not a problem, right? What the hell is going on inside your household, Mr. Holden?
So...
I'll answer your question if you answer mine, deal? That was Mr. Holden, always trying to make deals with you, but you could deal with it. Alright, you have yourself a deal. You held a hand out to make it official. Mr. Holden's smile widened as he reached out and shook it. What's the story? The truth is, Cove's been doing a lot for me lately, way more than usual. For 2 days in a row now, he's planned special dates and gifts too. I don't know why. Cove's father nodded contemptibly. He accepted the situation easily. That actually makes a lot of sense considering... Considering what? There was a sharp edge to your voice and it drove you to take a step forward. You needed to know. I need to know this ain't a problem. What's going on, my dear man? What are you hiding from me? You have to tell me. This is a deal. You can't break the deal. There was a pause. He was unsure what to say next, or how to phrase it at least. Honestly, I've been a little bit worried about the littlest bit worried about Cove lately. He's gotten really up in his head about something. It's not exactly a bad thing. It's tough to know how to even bring it up. I'm not sure I should try and have the talk about it. What do you mean the talk? The longer he spoke, the wider your eyes grew with concern. There was more happening than a few meaningless hangouts. God, Mr. Holden, you're really harming me here. It's okay. He raised his hand in a calming motion when he noticed your reaction. Let me explain. I noticed Cove has been getting a lot lost in thoughts more often recently, and he sometimes has his laptop out in the living room. He leaves it laying around on the couch or puts it on the coffee table. I have a clear view of it from there, and I can obviously see him looking stuff up on it. No, Cove keeps searching one phrase and different wordings of it too, then he'll spend ages clicking through the linked results. The line is, how do you make someone happy? Just that, again and again. You had consciously closed your mouth after that. You didn't know what to say. After hearing that revelation, Mr. Holden gently beamed. Isn't he such a good kid? He is, but God! Mr. Holden! He continued, but his tone was rueful. Unfortunately, I can relate all too well to that conundrum. Who am I to judge, right? Mr. Holden shrugged in an exaggerated way to lighten the mood back up. Before I was thinking Cove might have gotten in a fight with someone. Now it sounds like I was way off the mark. Cove clearly has other plans on the brain. I'm even more confused on whether it's something I should get into or not. You know, actually, I was wondering if you could have a little chat with him about what's going on. Sure, I'll chat with my boy. Leave it to me. I can do this, okay? Let me at him. I'll go chat with my baby boy. Sounds like you're at the core of Cove's study sessions, so he might feel more at ease talking about it. Or more embarrassed, but he'd probably still do it. I would really appreciate it. Your gaze trailed over to the Holden residence. Mr. Holden made a very good point. You had to admit. I'll do it.
Good kid.
Thanks. You're also a really good kid. You shook her head at the smile and started walking towards where the Cove went. After a few steps, you realized that Mr. Holden wasn't following. You glanced back at him. I'm gonna hang out here for a bit. Make sure you have some space to talk without a parent in the way. Door's probably unlocked, so go right in. Alright. This is a long DLC episode. Okay. But you hesitated for a moment. Mr. Holden's smile faded. Thanks for talking with me. This has been on my mind too, and I think it'll be good to ask Cove if everything's okay.
Absolutely.
Agreed. It'll all shake out right in the end, I'm sure. Mr. Holden grew much happier than he was a moment ago. Feeling ready, you turned right around and went into the house. Hey, Cove was sitting on the couch with his aforementioned laptop open. He peeked up at you with a puzzled look, and then it melted into a smile. I thought you were my dad. Did you forget something? No, I'm confronting you about what you're doing, my dear boy. Hope you're not too disappointed. It's just me and not your dad. As your teasing words sank in, you watched a smirk grow across his face. You crossed your arms and grinned.
No way.
Haha, yeah, right. Why are you here? We need to talk about about something. I need to know why you're doing all this, my boy. Okay. Cove closed his laptop and laid it on the couch cushion next to him. He got up, shuffled past the coffee table, and stopped right in front of you. He spoke in a hushed tone, only hearable because of the new closeness. Is everything all right? You tell me. I heard from your dad that you've been fixated on the idea of how to make someone happy. Why? Is anything wrong? You noticed that? Cove, do you not remember what you were like as a kid? I think your dad is gonna notice everything. Everything. Are you mad? No, I guess I really was distracted. I didn't think people around would actually be paying attention or taking notes of things. He chuckled awkwardly at himself. Cove, will you tell me why you felt like doing that so much?
Blue,
What did you say, Cove? Cove looked at you with large, earnest eyes. I did it because I want you to be happy. I'm already happy, my boy. You don't have to do anything. You already make me happy. The words flew out of your mouth without a second thought. Cove's face instantly started to turn red and his mouth twitched. Thank you? Another laugh squeaked out of him. Now he was completely frazzled on what to say. His gaze fell to the floor and he defaulted to rubbing his arm.
sorry.
I wasn't trying to make you or Dad concerned. I didn't want to upset anyone. Sorry. I'm definitely not upset. Your dad isn't either. Cove nodded, but he was still lost in thought. What made you start doing this all of a sudden? Did I do something? Did I make you think I was unhappy, my boy? No. Then what happened?
I don't know.
It's not helpful, my boy! With a deep frown, Cove looked back at you and repeated the phrase. Each time with the inflection was different. Like he intended to say something different, but was coming up with the same non-reply. I don't know anything! He ran a hand through his hair, trying to understand his own motivations. I guess maybe with everything that's been happening, and everything that's coming soon, it just kind of hit me that we're neighbors. A quick snort of air came out of your nose from his conclusion. Yeah? I mean, you've lived right across the street from me for 10 years. The only other kid who grew up in this whole neighborhood is your older sister. His weak smile bent. And then there's our parents. They sure were putting in the effort for the two of us to get to know each other. My dad literally paid you to be my friend. Cove shook his head with a laugh. His gaze was far away as he nostalgically reflected on the history you had. Basically, everything in our lives was set up for us to be together. It was always effortless. And why not? It practically went without saying that we'd be around each other. But it won't be like that forever. Our parents can't always be there to arrange things. We can't live in the little world of this street forever. Do I even know how to make it work when I don't have every advantage possible? I've made you happy in the past, but could I keep doing it? What even is it that I do that makes you happy? Cove started to run a hand through his hair again, but he stopped partway through. He looked at you earnestly. It was like breathing, and you're just going through life. You do what you're doing without even thinking. And then something reminds you that you're breathing, and you become way more cautious of it. Being with you is the same. I do what I normally do without pondering deeply on it. But now, all this stuff made me start thinking about it. Then I couldn't stop thinking about it. Cove sighed and stood up straighter. His eyes watched you softly, and you felt a surge of warmth in your chest. Blue, I love you. I felt like I needed to try harder, to make an effort. For you, for the relationship we had. I had to, and, well, that's what I did. Cove scratched the back of his neck. He looked sheepish now. It seemed like such a good idea in my head. It made complete sense. But maybe it was dumb. In one swift motion, you pulled him closer and leaned in, delicately pressing a kiss onto his mouth. fell into it. Placing his hands on your hips, he kissed you back. Stepping back, you took a deep breath. Cove shifted how he was standing and watched you bashfully. You will always make me happy. An enduring smile grew on your face as you could see your words sink in. You hoped he understood the depth of your emotions. You make me happy every day. I care about you. I should be thanking you for everything you've done. Thank you. There was a pause where neither of you were certain who was going to speak next. Cove sniffled.
Wow.
Thank you, Blue. Thanks for looking out for me. Even when you didn't even notice I was doing something worth checking in on. You're amazing. Someone has to do it. Cove narrowed his eyes to appear annoyed, but there was no amount of pretending that was going to extinguish the happy look on his face. Your mouth curled into a smirk. Cove chuckled. Now that everything was out in the open, his words were lighter. I gotta thank my dad, too. I can always count on him to be around. I have such good people in my life. He smiled softly. Cove withdrew a bit, looking shy. Can I still show up tomorrow and invite you on the last surprise outing? Yes, I'll see you first thing in the morning. Cove brightened hearing that from you. Grinning ear to ear, you honestly couldn't think of anything better than seeing the earnest look in his eyes. He simply wanted to spend time having fun with you. I can't wait. Me either. Cove leaned down so he could kiss you. As your lips parted, you saw that his were curled in a smile. He wrapped his arms around you and tucked you in close. You're really nice. Your lips gladly met his once more. Cove smelled good, like a heating mixture of fresh citrus and sea breeze. You mutually ensnared each other with the kiss, unwilling to let it end, until Cove abruptly glanced around as if he was seeing the location for the first time. He ducked his head, bashfully peering at you out of the corner of his eyes. Kind of in the middle of the living room. He mumbled the words, his grip on you tightening. And why does this matter, Cove? Nobody is in your house. My dad might come in soon, but, my room is right over there, so maybe we could go there if you wanted. You didn't waste a second taking hold of your boyfriend. There was no time to lose as far as you were concerned. Cove staggered, the force of your sudden tug nearly kneeling him over, but he managed to catch his balance. He hurried down the hall along with you, clinging desperately to your hand. Aw, my dear boy, this isn't gonna end well. You were the one who pushed the door open as you both pushed through as one. Cove smoothly closed the door after him using the heel of his foot, not allowing his hand or attention to be diverted from you for even a second, for even a moment. He took you in his arms fully, holding you close to his chest. You inhaled another waft of his invigorating fragrance as you stared into his open, eager eyes. Oh, okay, we're not gonna do all this. We're totally pushing you on the bed first. Taking his shirt in your fist and one hand on his waist and the other on his chest, you pressed him over towards his bunk. Cove stumbled over his feet. It wasn't easy moving backwards as someone else set the pace, but he soldiered on. Words! Once you judged that it was close enough to the bed for a soft landing, you opened your hand against his chest and toppled him over. He didn't resist, falling back onto the bed with a gasp. You climbed on top of him. The mattress gave gently under the pressure. Your knees sunk slightly as you planted them on either side of Cove's body. Cove's breath hitched, a much quieter sigh slipping from his mouth as the surprise gave way to the realization of the position you were both in. Oh, my dear, sweet, precious boy. He looked up at your face with nervous excitement. Perfect. No other word could describe him. Cove spluttered while covering his face with a hand. From between his fingers, you caught his eyes closing as you spoke, your words of praise rendering him unable to look at you directly. But you could also see his smile spread wider with each syllable you uttered. He squeaked with delight, unable to construct a sentence or even form a single word. You grinned at his reaction. You pressed her mouth against Cove's, holding it there in a longing kiss. It was only when the need for air became too much they finally broke apart. Cove inhaled rapidly, then leaned in again. This time, he slid the tip of his tongue against her lower lip. Startled, you let out a tiny exclamation of surprise.
Was
that all right? Everything's all right, boy. Definitely. Cove edged closer to you as he brought his mouth back to yours. His lips parted, guiding yours, and you met again in a deeper kiss. Your head tilted to different angles as you explored more of him. We're gonna stop there, because Cove is a little shy boy, and I don't want to torture him. You pulled back a fraction, out of Cove's immediate intoxicating orbit. You sighed contentedly, with satisfaction. Cove brushed his hand lightly against your cheek, and the backs of his fingers accommodating each curve in return. He was smiling. You could only beam back. A warm feeling took hold from knowing that you both felt good. But you still had Cove pinned to the bed beneath you. As nice as that was, it was too tempting to lean back in and get started all over again, so you picked yourself up and took a seat on the edge of the bed. Cove pulled himself to sit upright next to you. He seemed just as in need of a minute to collect himself. The two of you waited there quietly for a time, the only sound of your gradually slowing breath. He cleared his throat, trying to regain some control of the situation. I wish you could stay, but it's getting late. You need to head home and get some rest. He looked at you, attempting to frame an innocent expression.
I mean,
what if something just happened to happen tomorrow? Ha ha ha! Wink, wink, hunch, hunch, nudge, nudge, Cove Holden! You had to laugh. Cove cracked a smile, acknowledging his poor attempt at subterfuge. How about I walk you back? Nope, I'm not letting you go on such a long and dangerous journey. Stay here, but avenge me if I don't make it. Oh, what did I do? I'm sorry. Nope, I'm not letting. Oh, okay. Then let me walk you to the door at least. All right. You silently headed back into the living room together, comfortable with each other's presence. You stopped by the front door. Good night, Blue. His voice soft, like the comforter you just wanted to wrap yourself around forever. But Cove was right. You had to go for today. Good night, Cove. And with that, you opened the door and stepped outside. This is such a long DLC. I didn't realize it was going to be so long. Walked out into the street, you noticed Mr. Holden was still standing out there. He looked up at the sound of the door closing behind you, his phone in hand, and smiled as he sized up the situation.
Oh?
You were in there a while. I hope that's good news. Oh, Mr. Holden. Oh, Mr. Holden. Don't say it like that. Really, don't say it like that, my dear man. That sounds wrong. I got it all taken care of. It's all better now. Great, glad to hear it. Everything truly resolved. You exchanged goodnight wishes with Mr. Holden before continuing the very brief trip home. Not wishing to disturb anyone, you quietly snuck inside and gently pushed the door closed behind you. As it clicked into place with a minimum of fuss, you let out a sigh. Your mind buzzed as you climbed up the steps to your room. Cove had done so much just to make you happy, and you knew he'd be back tomorrow with another big surprise. I'm gonna surprise you with a gift. Cove had brought you 2 gifts already, and the odds are the third was coming. It was time to turn the tables and have something ready to give him. At this hour, it was easier said than done. Most stores were long closed, and Cove would be here bright and early to surprise you tomorrow morning. That ruled out purchasing a gift the way that he'd done for you. Luckily, you'd known Cove long enough to see a solution to this problem. Your neighbor was always a happy boy when he was given food. You were sure you could rustle up something fitting of that description out of the kitchen one way or another. Feeling make something you love, you sized up your options. With an early start, you'd be able to pull together something simple in the morning. If you wanted to go for something more elaborate and time-consuming, you'd need to do it right now. There was also the option of rallying the troops. Your moms knew how to cook wonderfully, and you could easily persuade them to give you a hand with this. We're gonna rally the troops. It was for the best. Oh, we're gonna make homemade fudge. I get this. This is funny. This connects back to that moment. But oh, the fudge. Just earlier this summer, you bought some. You've been ecstatic with the gift. You can only imagine how delighted someone would go to become a gift yourself. You located your moms in the room on the ground floor and explained your plight. You got a fair amount of ribbing, but they agreed to give you a hand. Ma even had a recipe she swore by that you could use. She flicked through an old cookbook full of clippings and swapped recipes, scribbled on note paper, and set to directing you and Mom like a real chef. You poured ingredients into the saucepan and mixed them together over a high heat, watching the color darken into a golden brown as the sugar caramelized. Soon the kitchen was full of sweet smells as heat joined the ingredients into one. As you waited for it to reach the right temperature, your mind continuously drifted back to that trip to the farmer's market. You recalled the hustle and bustle of all the stalls and the way you and your very familiar neighbor ended the day with mutual gifts in hand. You chuckled, imagining how there was likely going to be a similar situation tomorrow. Eventually, the striking red line on the thermometer brought you back to the present. Luckily, you didn't let it go too far. It was time. The cast iron saucepan was heavier than you expected now that it was full of rich, molten goodness. Molten goodness! But you managed to carefully pour it out and prepare it to set overnight. The teasing from your mom sparkled into the process was merciless. They had no idea why you so urgently needed to cook for Cove, but it may as well have been the funniest thing they had ever heard. Still, the gift needed to be just right, and you endured their good-natured jokes. When it was over, they patted you on the back. You dusted off your hands, satisfied with the job well done. With your mission accomplished, you headed back up to your room. You took steps lightly, feeling buoyed as you imagined how happy Cove would be with your unexpected gift. Cove was working so hard to make you happy. You purely wanted your partner to be happy too. You could only hope your efforts would work as well for him as his plans would work for you. You were up early the next day, ready and waiting for Cove's inevitable appearance. Your ears were perked, listening for the doorbell, but instead what you heard was the familiar rapping on the window pane. Oh, breaking the rule of threes, God, Cove! There was no need to look to know who that was. Only one visitor used your window as his personal entranceway. Mr. Holden! Getting up, you headed over to let him in. You gazed into your neighbor's face as you unfastened the window. Opening it wide, he smiled at you, still crouched on the window ledge. Ah, tired of using the front door already. Cove's laugh was as airy as cotton candy sold on the boardwalk. He was in good spirits. Surprise? I'm really keeping you on your toes. What will I do next? He waggled his eyebrows at the joke as you stepped back to let him enter the room. Today, he clambered through with extra difficulty thanks to the object he was clutching securely. You guessed it was another gift. Oh, what did you bring me this time? You teased him, continuing the joke he'd begun. Cove smiled bashfully, glancing down at the item in his hands before holding it out to you. With a bit of flair, he flipped open a folded cloth and turned out to be a t-shirt emblazoned with the logo of the college you'd applied to. You'll be needing this. Your application's gonna get accepted for sure. His eyes were trained on you, searching for your emotion on it. I hope you like it. Aww. He was too thoughtful. Cove's eyebrows raised your one, misunderstanding your reaction. But you shook your head and smiled at him. Smiled to let him know that you were happy. Relaxing, he grinned at you. Means a lot to me. He chuckled self-consciously as he gave a long look to the meaningful gift he had selected. It was as if it was growing heavier in his hands. I really do support your goals. I just want you to know that. I know, Cove. You accepted accepted the thoughtful present in your own grasp. Once he'd transferred ownership and cemented it with your approval, did Cove straighten up and pull himself together.
Well,
would it be alright for me to take you out today? We could, I don't know, go to the theater, things that I had not already told you I was going to do. Wink, wink, hunch, hunch, nudge, nudge. Oh, my little boy, Cove. He smirked, already anticipating that you'd say yes. Alright, but you're lucky I got time for you in my busy schedule. His expression brightened further. That was exactly what he had hoped for.
thanks.
Thanks, Blue. You're glad to see how happy your acceptance had made him. But before Cove could whisk you away to another big outing, you made your own move. Your surprise would be better now than when you got back late that night. Actually, before we go, I got something for you, too. Wait,
What?
what, really? It was amazing how surprised he was. Cove had spent 3 days writing gifts and special trips on you, but he hadn't at all counted on you doing something in return. What is it? Stay here for a second and I'll show you. Okay? He watched you expectantly as you turned around to head downstairs. You reached where the homemade fudge was waiting and collected the prize. As you flipped back around to your room, gift in hand, there was a smile playing out across your face. Cove was patiently waiting where you'd left him, tapping his fingers against the side of his pants. I hope there's enough for a growing boy like you. Cove perked up at your words before you even had a chance to see what the present was. You got me food? I made you food, my dear boy. You laughed. You definitely called it that he'd appreciate this gift. You handed the gift over for his inspection. His eyes widened as he saw the treat. I made this myself, so set your expectations and reactions accordingly. Also, my mom's good help too. It's fudge. You want me more fudge? His eyes were shining as he took the box. You made me more fudge? He dove in at once, grabbing at a slab and taking a couple of big bites. A happy exhale escaped his nose as he munched away. Well, does it get the Cove seal of approval? Cove kept chewing, gesturing and apologetic to his occupied mouth. Finally, after what felt like an age, he swallowed. It's amazing! Even better than the fudge at the farmer's market! Your mom is right. You really do spoil me. You chuckled, recalling the way everyone had ganged up on you in Cove that day. But you couldn't deny the charges. How could you not spoil a guy like this? Cove wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, now a little calmer after the initial burst of excitement. His feelings instead settled into an easy warm affection.
It's nice.
Thank you for this. It's so nice of you. I would give anything for you, Cove. He chuckled shyly, tucking his head into his shoulder self-consciously. You don't have to give anything, though. I'm already yours. Your face got significantly hotter after that blunt statement. Even though you certainly hadn't forgotten he was your boyfriend, the way he said it left you speechless. His features softened, and you felt like you were being thoroughly appreciated. The food you gave was also getting its due attention. He'd already gone in for a second serving. You couldn't blame his indulgence. That said, the amount you'd given him was enough for several servings, far more than even Cove could usually finish at once. You made sure of it. But as he continued to devour it, you were starting to suspect that polishing it off was the goal. In spite of the generous portion, he was willing to try and eat it all in order to show you how much he liked the present. It's okay to save some for later, I don't mind. You could tell that he wanted to show how taken he was with the gift, but you've not presented it to him as a challenge to be overcome. Cove finished his current bite and let out a satisfied sigh.
Alright.
Alright, I'll stop for now. There's other stuff I want to do, and I can have more later. You smiled at him, believed that your gift could be enjoyed and not revealed. Time for me to stop hogging the limelight. You can do your surprise now, too. Cove laughed. Yours was a better surprise for sure. It was a real one, but yeah. He grinned broadly as if the exchange had fired him up. I'm definitely going to take you out now. Cove offered you his hand. You took his hand in yours, palm to palm. Cove squeezed your hand before heading out the door, guiding you along. Hand in hand, you wove down the stairs together, out of the house and into the neighborhood. Cove's car was parked nearby. He unlocked it, allowing you to reach for your regular spot in the passenger seat. Cove paused to put in what remained of his present safely away before hopping into the driver's seat. He set off, beginning your trip to the third and final activity of Cove's grand happiness plan. So, when I looked it up, there are 2 shows we could pick from around this time. One was a historical romance with nobility, fancy outfits, drama and stuff. The other seemed like a modern day story, something set near a lake, and a bread and breakfast with comedy. It's kind of wacky, I guess.
So?
What do you think? Or romance? Cool. I'm curious about what'll go down. What do you think the costumes will look like? Already your thoughts were busy trying to guess the historical setting. Cove hadn't given you much to work with at all. Oh no? Luckily we're gonna find out soon. Yeah.
Alright.
I'm getting kind of excited. I wonder what it'll be like. I haven't seen a live play before. Haven't been to a performance either. It could be good. To be honest, you weren't really sure if going to see a play was your kind of activity. Cove watched fondly though. That made this worthwhile either way. The rest of the drive flew by, and soon enough you were at the theater with Cove by your side. Tickets in hand, you both went inside. Shuffling down the aisle, Cove found the right seats. You were getting settled in when the lights began to dim. You made it just in time. Your voice came out in a whisper. Glancing at Cove, you saw him staring straight ahead with eyes full of wonder and intrigue. Then the actors started coming out onto the stage, and the show set the scene focusing on a group of wealthy families and the web of drama they entangled themselves in. And yet, despite the tension and the chaos, 2 lovers emerged. Their swift engagement drew nothing but disapproval from their friends and family. You expected there would be several trials before the lovers could reach any kind of happy ending. The play continued on, and at one point, Cove reached out and covered your hand with his. Featherlight, you felt him stroke the back of your hand with his thumb. Inching closer, you rested the side of your head against Cove's shoulder and interlaced your fingers with his. He sighed contentedly over how comfortable you got with him. You became absorbed in the story and the performances, and you weren't the only one. During the touching scene, you could hear quiet sniffling coming from the seat where your longtime neighbor was. When the play finally came to a close, the audience broke into applause. Cove clapped for the actors until the noise died down. Then he spoke for the first time since the event began. It's over. Hand in hand, you followed Cove out of the theater. The sun was hanging low in the sky. I had so much fun. I can't believe what a good time that was. But really, I might have to come back sometime to see the other one. Cove scratched at his cheek contemptibly. I sort of thought it was going to be harder to keep up with the, what's the phrase, suspension of disbelief? The actors were right there putting on a show. I thought it'd be too much to believe it was really happening.
Not bad.
But I felt more into it than with a whole lot of movies. I could totally picture the world they lived in. Amused, you nodded along and listened to Cove's animated commentary. I'm still thinking about it even though it's over. Imagine if it was us. Attending high society parties, living in grand mansions. We'd have to deal with the rich and powerful and the politics or whatever that went along with it. Our families would try to force us to follow certain paths, but we'd still find our own way to each other, to the things we want to do. He had stars in his eyes as he fantasized about the events of the story. Oh, I'm gonna hunt you along, buddy. You raised an eyebrow accusingly, but your tone left low room for doubt that you were teasing. Well, Cove's gaze avoided you and settled on the ground off to the side. He spoke softly.
I mean,
Like you said, it is a part of the story, so it'd be wrong to throw that out, right? His mouth pulled into a small smile, and after several heartbeats, his gaze met yours, making your skin feel hotter. Of course, I wouldn't dream of skipping that part. Stunned, Cove stared at you, but then slowly his expression melted into a nervous grin. He was too flustered to say anything. A few quiet moments passed, and you noticed a distant look on Cove's face. He shook his head like he was trying to send the thought away. What is it? Trying to really picture a completely new life in a new place that actually feels kind of weird now that I'm doing it. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, exciting, but also sad. I'm thinking too seriously about this dumb idea, I guess. But if I don't remember anything from this world, then it'd be pointless if I had a life before. And if it really did happen, I probably would be surrounded by totally new people. I wouldn't have you with me anymore. Surprised, you sucked in a breath. Cove laughed shyly.
That's...
The fun part of imagining it all was that you were there by default. Just getting to be someplace else on my own wouldn't be nice no matter what cool place was. Settle then. I just have to look for you if I wind up on another chance at life. And magically end up in some other world. I'd hope you try to find me too. Nervous, Cove's eyes didn't quite meet yours. His cheeks and ears were solidly red at this point. I will never forget about you, Cove. You felt somewhat worked up for having to even say that. It was absurd to imagine any other scenario. Oh, thank you. The sincere tone of his voice struck a deep chord with you, and you had to return with eagerness. I mean it. There's nothing anyone could do to stop me from trying to find you again. Well, in that case, it'll work out after all. He took a deep breath and stretched his arms high over his head, and then he turned his head to your direction and pointed with his thumb to his car. We better get back to the real world now, huh? It's getting late, I think. We're the only ones still out here. You spun around, getting a good look at your surroundings. Cove was right. All the other cars that were out here after the show ended were long gone. How did I miss that? It's suddenly dark too, by the way. Yep, it is.
Come on.
Come on, let's go home. After that, you made your way into Cove's car. He set course for your neighborhood. Your legs felt stiff from standing still and talking for so long, but it was worth it. On the return leg of the journey, you felt Cove lapse into a deep into a world of thought. Typically, even when the conversation was exhausted, his eyes would flick to you occasionally and you'd exchange smiles or other such gestures. This time, his focus was split purely between the road and the recesses of his mind. But as there was no sign of trouble on his features, you were happy to let him mull over whatever he needed to in peace. The trip drifted by in comfortable silence. Before long, you were back in the neighborhood. Each left through your respective sides, and Cove stepped around the vehicle to stand with you. Wordlessly, he gestured to your home. He was intending to take you there. Perhaps he felt the trip wasn't truly over until you were literally inside your house. You contently continued to go with Cove on his whims, and you went inside. Once under the light of your living room lamps, his eyes locked into yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blue. I know this was a lot, but I really did have such fun. He grinned in an almost conspiratorial way. We really did it. This whole entire dumb plan of mine. I was happy it all became a reality. I hope you're happy too. All I wanted for you to be happy. A smile he wore was small, even restrained compared to some of the grins he flashed earlier, but it was imbued with a calm, comforting content. In this moment, he was as joyful as you'd ever seen him. His next words escaped in a whisper. No one makes me feel the way you do. But he moved the conversation along before you had a chance to react to that admission. It had to be intentional.
Blue.
Could I ask you to go along with one more surprise? His voice was gentle, even as he implored you a little more. The question itself was a surprise. Another? You could hardly believe that there was even more pinned up his sleeve. Cove chuckled quietly, nodding his head over ever so slightly. A new one. I think I don't want to go home already. Not yet. I'm going back to one of our usual spots. Sounds fantastic after all this new stuff we went through. I can do that. Let's stay together. Not that an offer like that coming from you counts as a surprise, but it's the thought that counts. You smirked at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm bad at surprises. What a surprise. The two of you laughed together over the silliness of the entire mini adventure Cove had concocted. Thanks for saying yes anyway. You walked down your usual path side by side and hand in hand. You trodden the same path many times. By all rights, the novelty should have been long gone, but you found fulfillment in every step you took. You were sure you always would, with Cove supporting you along the way. Whether he was near or far, it didn't matter in the end. He would always be there for you. plan of Cove's drawing to a close, you might have expected to feel a little wistful. It had been an exciting few days, but there was no need to yearn for what had gone. After all, you knew that the two of you would always find new ways to bring a smile to each other's face. It's what you both did, and you were looking forward to new surprises already. And there we go. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for joining me on Our Life Beginning and Always, the Step 3 DLC. The next part should be out hopefully on Saturday. Will be the Step 4 for Blue's Journey. I'm going to try to get Step 4 out, and then hopefully we will get back to the Great Ace Attorney. I'm thankful for everyone supporting this series. I'm thankful for everybody who's come back, even when I've taken these breaks from doing YouTube, even though I really want to. Work has been painful, very, very painful. This past week, I was on vacation, and it was just so relaxing that my days just went by in a flash. And if you follow me on other social media, you know the recording room, the room I am in right now, working on this game. I have been updating continuously, trying to get it to a point where it currently actually is probably the most done room in my house, besides probably my living room. We have a new TV that is up on the wall. I had problems with getting somebody to hang that for me. There's a new computer monitor. This thing is huge. It's 49 inches compared to my little tiny one I had before. There's 2 new bookcases on either side of my computer desk. I just installed extenders on those bookcases, so they are just full of manga. And then I'm working on the baseboards for the entire room. So it's been an adventure. Currently, I have to rehang all 3 of my posters in this room back up. But I'm going to get them professionally framed, so that's going to take me a bit. Because I'm going to do it slowly. But obviously, you're hearing me ramble. But I wanted to take a moment at the end of this to explain what had been going on. And I go back to work for the worst part of the year is what's coming up. November through December, I am going to be the most dead person on the face of the planet. And I'm not prepared for it. The positive is currently they are paying me really nicely. I got a $3 raise because of everything going on. Can't keep new people on at my job. The negative is we just lost people. Literally the person who was working right in front of me before I left, I know for a fact that he was fired because he could not keep up, so he wasn't certified. So he's allowed to try again once we get to November, but he ain't working right now, so that'll be fun to come back and at least not have to pick up that mess. I am not looking forward to the mess I'm going to have to deal with tomorrow when I come into work after this vacation. But thank you all for joining me. Thank you all if you've made it to the end of my ramblings. I really enjoy you guys being here and supporting the channel, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Bye, everybody.